I was playing around building a game the other night, and I had a need for a variable operator in JavaScript, and I'm pretty sure that's not a thing, or I don't know of a non-hacky way to do this, and so we're going to build a hacky way. Right, so like let's say, I don't know, I've got some data object, and in that is well, yeah, I'll use the case, right? So I have some x and y with some integers and maybe some descriptive things about this, whatever, right? The thing I may want to do is add information to this, or subtract or multiply, but I may not know what to do without the context. So maybe it's like, maybe if the direction is south, I'm adding or subtracting or dividing, whatever. And so I want to be able to perform that action without having to write a function specifically for that action, right? So do that maybe by saying math, and here I'm going to say add, right? And so let's create a few of these. Okay. And we'll do north, south, east, west. And on north, I'll say add. This is kind of arbitrary. South, I'll say subtract. East, I'll say multiply. West, I'll say divide. And I don't know, I'm going to throw some other variables in here. Okay, so then what I want here is a function that I can then perform some action on this object based on the math operator within that object. And so what I can do is create another object called a math object, and I'm just going to assign those operators like so, and say then pass through quick function here that just takes two variables and does whatever this key is, right? So in this case, it will be a plus b, right? Oops. And then I'll just do the same thing, minus, multiply, divide, subtract, multiply, divide. And so now here I should be able to then take an item in here, and so maybe I just want to map over it, right? And we'll say D for data, and then here we will say math object with the d.math, and that will then call using this. It will then call this function, and within that function then I can pass the other parameters, which would be d.x, d.y, right? So I'm going to do the math on whatever's in here. I mean, you could throw whatever you want through there, but let's see what happens then. So now I have, there we go. So we have 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 minus 1 is 0, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 divided by 5 is 0.2. So that's not bad. That's actually pretty useful. And one thing I do, or one thing I use for this is actually a little utility here that we can find by going to, I think it's here, code to clipboard. So what I can do here is anything that you put here is going to go to your clipboard. And so what I'm going to do is take this and dump it here. And I'm going to say new line, new line, new line. Cool. So let's check that. Perfect. Now it copied that to our clipboard. So now I can just take this, go on over to Mr. Cole here, Peter, who has this really handy tool that I used to have my own version of it, but then it was just like, you know what, this guy's tool is pretty good, and so I'm just going to use it. So now I can say math object, and paste my code there, and now anytime I want that code to use, I can just grab it from my clipboard like so. And so then I'm going to drop this over here where I have a bunch of scripts like that, which are pretty handy. A lot of scripts that I use pretty regularly, I just keep in here if I need to add them to my clipboard or execute them or whatever. It's easy to access them and execute them. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for today.